Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and today I'll tell you why I prefer Tiny Tina's Wonderlands over the brand new Borderlands 4.
So, you want to hear a story, huh? One about treasure hunters. Have I got a story for you?
You know what, Marcus? Yes, please, I would love to hear a story like that, because the story I get in Borderlands 4 usually looks like this. Navigating the huge, fairly empty and actually pretty boring open world using the little speeder here again and again and again. And well, I mean, it's just one of the things that I don't like.
Get off my bus.
So if you know what I mean, all you gotta do is just jump back in time and fire up the old Borderlands 3 or Borderlands 2 or the original Borderlands. It doesn't really matter, because these games are not open world, and also they have a lot more charm, character and personality than Borderlands 4 will ever have. Because not that there's anything wrong with Borderlands 4 as a game as such, it's like highly polished, the gameplay is excellent, it's like full of action, there's nothing really wrong with it. But is it a Borderlands game? No, I don't think so, definitely not. If it wasn't for, you know, the 5 minutes of screen time that Claptrap has and the graphic style, then no one would actually even believe it was Borderlands. So the reason I'm back here on Sanctuary in Borderlands 3 is because I'm going to take you on a little nostalgic tour here and to catch up with some of the most beloved characters. Like, you know, the guy we first saw here, and then of course Ellie as well, one of my like pretty much favorites. Of course, Crazy Earl as well. I mean, you can't have a Borderlands game without Crazy Earl. Well, apparently you can in Borderlands 4, which is, you know, pretty much the gist of this video. And yes, I'll visit some other people here, but I'm not going to keep narrating about them. Instead, I want to talk about Borderlands 4. And if you watched my video earlier about how none of the old, like, beloved characters are actually to be found in Borderlands 4, then yes, that's part of this video here. That's one thing that is a bit of a shame in Borderlands 4. The other thing that I want to touch on is, while I like open world games, I don't think it benefits Borderlands. What I wanted to see when people were saying, hey, let's see Borderlands open world, I just don't want to see any load times, but I prefer the levels the way they were. So with that in mind, that brings me to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is, you know, pretty much a Borderlands game just set in the Tiny Tina universe. And this is not open world, right? But they've incorporated other aspects, like for example the overworld here. And I think this works really well to stitch the different areas together, instead of, you know, running into a load wall like it did in Borderlands. But of course you also do that here, but not to the same extent. And this way you get to keep the tight and well-constructed areas, which, let's be honest here, you tend to lose in an open-world game. So just to elaborate on my point here, let's take a walk through Brighthoof here, the main area in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Now, like I said, this is not an open-world game, so you know, the developers have you know, the opportunity to kind of, you know, expect where you're going to enter from, what you're going to do and what you're going to see, right? So you can already see here, this place is like exuding, you know, charm, and you know, it just looks lived in, and you know, that's what we want. And yes, I realize this is totally different from the Borderlands, you know, Pandora and all that stuff, but in the end, it's the same thing, right? Sanctuary in Borderlands 3 and Borderlands 2, and you know, Firestone in Borderlands 1. They have the same feel as Brighthoof here does, but in Borderlands 4, that is not the case. Borderlands 4 is more about driving from one spot to another and/or following the little golden trail here from one spot to another, because the open world isn't really able to funnel you where you're supposed to go, right? Of course, sure, the developers could have chosen to do that, but then what is the point of an open world, right? But let's just talk about the charm or the lack of that in Borderlands 4 again here, because Like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands like exudes charm in every corner, and it's not to say that some characters aren't annoying. For example, Paladin Mike is probably the most annoying character in any Gearbox game ever made. I just can't stand this guy. But then on the other hand, you have fantastic characters like Mr. Torque and Dr. Zed and Marcus and all the guys I showed in the beginning, right? And you have the little like silly jokes here, where, for example, you have to craft your ship, which consists of just clicking on it. I mean, none of this is anywhere to be found in Borderlands 4. They could have benefited from fresh ideas, like implemented in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands here, for example, the encounters and stuff like that. I think that works a lot better to break up the kind of monotonous stuff going on in Borderlands 2. And I think that Borderlands 4 should have adopted this approach, along with the zany humor of, for example, having a cheese poof here block your way. This is, classic Borderlands, classic humor, and, a little bit over the top, but that's what Borderlands is. And speaking of the characters in Borderlands 4, wow, I have never seen such a dull collection of absolutely boring characters. Like even this Gorman guy here, which, looks funny and could have some pretty funny lines, just doesn't. He just rambles off some exposition and off you go. And it gets even worse when we actually come to the more, important characters in the game. For example, like Sadra here. She is like just so boring. Like she doesn't have any jokes or anything like that. She just says, this is your objective, go do it. And while we're on it, the timekeeper, like the big baddie, he probably has 4 or 5 lines throughout like 90% of the game, and he means nothing to me. I don't really know who he is. So anyway, the earlier Borderlands game, Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, and Borderlands 3, and of course also Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, they have that character, that personality, and the humor, right? But they don't have the open world, and I'd say there's a very good reason for that. Because, the open world in Borderlands 4, it tends to get a little boring, and not just the open world, but also the Vault Hunters in Borderlands 4. If you think back to Borderlands 4, which is Borderlands 1, which I'm showing here, right? You have 4 Vault Hunters, and they're introduced in a brilliant way by Marcus, cracking jokes about them in the boss, and it's just an excellent way to introduce these Vault Hunters, and of course, throughout the whole game, although Borderlands 1 is actually quite serious game, right, compared to 2 and 3, these guys have so much personality, and you get to know them very well. In Borderlands 4, that is not the case, not even close.
See you next time!
Now, I fully understand that not everyone can stomach Claptrap, and yes, like I said, I understand that, but on the other hand, I think Borderlands 4 have gone too far the other way. And even the more anonymous loader bots in Borderlands 2 seem like personality fountains compared to these guys here. So yeah, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, and other than that, enjoy the games.